Reporting from the belly of the beast, this is Crystal Myers-Barber.
And hello, everyone. I just want to wish everyone happy Veterans Day for all who have served our country and sacrificed. I want to thank you. Today is November the 11th, 2025. We're still on November the 11th here in Southern California. I'm going to be covering a few things, including the following. We're going to be looking at the government shutdown. And by law, Congress members are still getting paid. I just want to remind everybody that as these negotiations continue, we're going to be taking a look at President Trump and how he is looking at considering suing BBC News for a lot of money. There's a lot of air travel woes still happening and disruptions. So if you're flying this week, expect longer lines, cancellations, and it's just crazy what's going on out there. I know President Trump said he was going to give bonuses, like $10,000 bonuses for people that went to work, even though they weren't being paid for the air traffic controllers. So that's pretty phenomenal if you happen to be in that. And we're going to be talking about SNAP with the food program. Another thing I want to get into, because we have a lot to unpack here, is how President Trump invited a Syrian president to the White House. And that really sparked a lot of reactions from some people. And I also want to make mention, I don't know what has happened since they funded the SNAP benefits or let them be funded. That is, our traffic here in Southern California has been beyond crazy. I've really not seen it so bad, and it's some of the worst traffic I've seen. And I just wondered if you live here, if you're also noticing that. Oh, just a little side note. So let's get into some of this. I want to, thank everybody for tuning in. Hope you had a great day. I hope you had a nice day off, or however you spent it with your family. I know that things are really crazy right now. And let's see here. I'm going to show you something I really, really, really want to get into. And let me bring you over to this now. Is the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Secretary Brooke Rollins. And there's a video that I really wanted to get on my channel here. And play this for you and show you this. This was something I had meant to show you for a while. So if you can just bear with me, we're going to get right over to that right now. Here we are. And this is something that I had to dig up and find. And I don't know if a lot of people have seen it. It has gone viral. It has almost 40 million views. And she's been on Fox News and everything. But let's just replay this. You can get it here.
Day one of USDA, February 13th, is we sent letters to every governor in America being very clear that no illegal aliens can use SNAP. 0, 0, 0. We asked every state for the first time in history, and this was in February, to send us their data and let us, with DOJ and a war room, actually start going through this data to better understand how this explosion of SNAP benefits happened under Joe Biden. We increased almost 40% on this program in just a couple of years under the Biden administration. Of course, we know they were trying to buy the election, but that's a conversation for another time. And since we have asked for that data, 29 states have complied. Of course, almost all the red states, a couple of couple blue states too. But in that data, and I haven't talked about this yet publicly, in that data we've studied about $100 billion in spend. We have found thousands and thousands of illegal use of the EBT card. We have been moving people off of SNAP. We've got almost 700,000 people, I think, we've moved off just since the president took office. We've arrested about 118 people. So this has been ongoing. But Rachel, to your point, what this conversation has allowed is a national spotlight on a broken and corrupt program. We found one guy in 6 different states getting a benefit. We found about 5,000 people that are dead who are still getting benefits. Like, it is time to drastically reform this program so that we can make sure that those who are truly needy, truly vulnerable, are getting what they need, and the rest of the corruption goes away and we can serve the American taxpayer.
So this was just such an amazing revelation for people who are sitting out there talking about how, SNAP, it's how, all these mainstream media channels are just tearing this narrative up. And, they keep repeating that same information, 42 million people. But as we just heard from Secretary Brooke Rollins of USDA, she has just told us how 29 states did turn in the information, but all 21 blue states refused. And 2 sued for asking, and this is just crazy. And so I think that, let me see here. A lot of people don't know this. I don't think a lot of people realize the abuse and the fraud. And when I am going out and I'm looking around for trying to dig up this type of information, it's just so hidden. And the fact that she has over, almost 40 million views is all telling, isn't it? So let's move over, and we're gonna come back to some things there. Let's go over to what's happening with flights, because this is America, and this is not normal to see our country being halted like this. It's crazy because this is wrong, on every level, and people are really suffering.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy spending the afternoon here at O'Hare, just one day after.
Sorry, I got to make sure you're watching this video with me. Oh, there you are. Yay. Let's make this visible here. Let's go back.
After this airport led the nation in both cancellations and delays. It was exactly a week ago that Duffy had predicted mass chaos at major airports around.
He's at Chicago O'Hare International Airport. On the same day, FAA increased its requirement of airlines to cut 6% of all domestic flights, but I saw it go up to like 50% has been cut
on the country. And though there is growing optimism about the end of this government shutdown, Duffy issuing a warning today that the disruption we saw this past weekend will pale in comparison to the weekend ahead if the House does not pass this funding bill.
I think we would see that significant disruption coming this next weekend, maybe as early as Friday. And I think you're going to have airlines that make serious calculations about whether they continue to fly.
Duffy appearing in Chicago on the same day the FAA increased its requirement of airlines to cut 6% of all domestic flights, the reduction triggered by a shortage of air traffic controllers around the country. Today, however, Duffy says there were only 4 air traffic control staffing triggers nationwide, compared to 81 on Saturday.
I think our air traffic controllers are seeing an end to the shutdown and feel more hopeful, and they're coming into their facilities.
The secretary says if the funding bill passes the House, air traffic controllers will get 70% of their back pay paid out in 24 to 48 hours, with the remaining 30% coming a week later. Passengers we spoke to sharing their thanks for the controllers.
We certainly appreciate them working without being paid. I mean, that's a very big thing, and I hope they know that we appreciate it.
Still, the impact of the government shutdown hanging like a dark cloud for many other travelers.
I was so anxious that I left the house without a luggage.
Grace Matos says she's flying for an important work trip, but regardless of what happens with the shutdown this week, she'll be hitting the road for Thanksgiving.
A 16-hour road trip I'm not a fan of, but it sounds better than playing Russian.
Did she say she left her luggage? I gotta back this up. Wait a minute. I'm gonna go back.
It sounds better than playing.
That is stress. You're stressed out.
Thanksgiving.
A 16-hour road trip I'm not a fan of, but it sounds better than playing Russian roulette with my life at the moment.
Almost everyone we speak to making extra plans or taking extra precautions with regards to their travel. One couple we heard from traveling to Switzerland, skipping their connecting flight from Indianapolis to Chicago, instead electing to drive here to O'Hare so as to make sure they don't miss their big trip overseas.
Well, hold on. Hold on, everyone. Let me come back over here so you can see me, so we can look at some other information within this. What we have here is airlines have canceled more than 7,500 flights since Friday, and we are on Tuesday. We are still on Tuesday. So this was all due to the weather and air traffic control shortages. Okay, so we just saw a video about that. That is stopping all kinds of stuff. And on Saturday, we had 81 staffing triggers. Today, we have 4, they said. So they think things are going to be back to somewhat normal, but I don't think so, because the House still has to vote, and President Trump has to pretty much sign off on everything. So let's go on and look at some more stuff about this. We're going to go and check out. Let's look at what is happening with the shutdown itself. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to play a video, if my computer will work with me here. And thanks for hanging in here. So, because this is like so much happening, isn't it? So the U.S. Senate passes bill to end the government shutdown, and they have now sent it to the House. And the House has been on vacation, so we had a holiday today. So let's see. Let's check this out. Let me just see if I can play this. It looks like it's one of those videos where you just
end the longest government. The U.S. Senate on Monday approved a compromise that would end the longest government shutdown in U.S. history.
On this vote, the ayes are 60, the nays are 40. The bill as amended is passed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table.
The 60-40 vote passed with the support of nearly all of the chamber's Republicans and 8 Democrats. The deal would restore funding for federal agencies and would stall President Donald Trump's campaign to downsize the federal workforce, preventing any layoffs until January 30. It next heads to the Republican-controlled House of Representatives. Speaker Mike Johnson had said he would like to pass it as soon as Wednesday.
I will call all House members to return to Washington as quickly as possible. We'll give a 36-hour formal and official notice so that we can vote as soon as possible to pass the amended CR bill and get it to the president's desk.
President Trump called the deal to reopen the government very good. The measure breaks a weeks-long stalemate that has disrupted food benefits for millions, left hundreds of thousands of federal workers unpaid, and snarled air traffic. But it has provoked anger among many Democrats who unsuccessfully sought to tie government funding to health subsidies that are due to expire at the end of the year. The agreement sets up a December vote on those subsidies, which benefit 24 million Americans. However, it does not guarantee they will continue.
Okay, so let me stop this here from playing again. Basically, I absolutely know, because I really looked into this and I researched this. And I had to set some stuff straight. People were paid their SNAP benefits. Everybody that was really in the system, people that had this system together, like here in California, most all the states. I mean, there was like 3, maybe 4 I looked at where North Carolina is not paying, and I think there was maybe 2 or 3 other states that were having some problems. But other than that, SNAP was paid. It wasn't paid at 50% either. I think it was paid because I had looked into it. So let me go back over there in this article and see if there's anything else that we needed to hear or know about it. I think we covered that. So, yeah, without getting into all the details, everybody that was set up to fund it, and it did get their money. And so it's not true that they didn't get paid. But what they have to do is pass this bill. It's just temporary, though. It only goes through the end of January. So whatever they're doing is just temporary when they vote and when President signs this off. Because I think this has to do with what we saw at the top of the show with the USDA and the fraudulent situations where they said they removed 700,000 people off of these food stamps that should not be on there. I think they're having things like that. And then I've seen Obamacare and some issues like that going on. And so we're going to move over to another story, and that is with President Trump and his threat to sue BBC. So this is crazy. Oh, and I just want to add something. When I use Chat GPT to look up information. I mean, everybody's using AI right now, I'm sure. It's just smart. I mean, you can definitely get wrong information, but one thing that always happens, always, no matter if I'm signed in or not signed in, they always call President Trump former President Trump. They don't ever, I've not seen them give him like credit to be president right now. And it's just crazy. And here, on like day one of his administration, when he started back in January, he had all those big AI techs in the White House doing, was Ellison and Sam Altman, who actually got served papers, by the way. Which I didn't want to sidetrack into that. And he's had, Meta, Facebook up in the house, and he had everybody, Bill Gates, everybody up in the White House at dinner. Remember that dinner that was just I think it's a couple weeks ago at this point, maybe a month at this point. But he should like contact them and say, hey, it's OpenAI, Sam Altman, you need to get your straight. Give me credit for where credit is due, because I am the president right now, and try to get that part like tweaked. So he should be talking to them. This is crazy. Oh, and another thing, I don't have this queued up, but Elon Musk is on target to be the first trillionaire in the world. Isn't that amazing? I'm just remembering things. I try to bring what I can up in here and remember everything, but you know how it is with news. We get too much sometimes, and it's just no sense in hearing too much of this stuff. I even get frustrated. I try to see these stories and hear about them, but try to get out of the matrix a lot and try to look at it like different angles, like what's really happening. I start questioning everything. I'd be calling President Trump out too, with him and his talking about how grocery prices or inflation is better. I know under his administration, he inherited a bunch of stuff through the last, whatever you want to call him. I can't even look at that as a serious president, but it was like that show that came in and what they caused. He did inherit that, but President Trump should be more honest and tell everybody the truth. The grocery prices are really not coming down. Okay. Even Ted Cruz was talking about egg prices today, and I'm like, they're still high here in California. So it depends on what state, I guess. But I try to talk to everybody, and I see everybody's media posts on this, and so I don't want to go off on a tangent. Let's get back over here and try to talk about the threat that Trump is going to sue BBC News. I'm going to make sure you can see this, but it's pretty wild. It's almost like President Trump. He's like back with a vengeance, and he's getting everybody back. I think Melania sued and won somebody, but he's suing for $1 billion over an edited clip. I think he sued, was it NBC? One of those big news channels for editing his 60 Minutes video script or whatever. They edited him down, made him look bad. He won, but he's out getting BBC News over an edited clip that plunged him into public relations crisis and prompted the resignation of two top executives. In a letter sent to the BBC, Trump's legal team has demanded the retraction of false, defamatory, disparaging, misleading, and inflammatory statements. That's a mouthful. You don't say that every day. Contained in a documentary aired a week before the 2024 U.S. presidential election. I think this was about the January 6th. I think this was about what it was about. So the letter written by Trump's lawyer gives the BBC until Friday this coming Friday, I guess, to provide a full and fair retraction of the documentary and appropriately compensate President Trump for the harm caused. Oh my God, he's going to get some money. So the BBC is on notice, and BBC, it says, please govern yourself accordingly, says the letter in all caps, which was widely circulated on social media. And so Trump is threatening, and that's a lot of money. Could that like take them down? So, oh gosh, without getting into this too much, this moves include defamation claims against the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and ABC News, funding cuts in NPR and PBS, and the removal of Associated Press journalists from the White House press pool, which is hilarious. They actually removed the AP journalists from the White House press pool. I mean, this has been a different White House, believe me. They came in there and they're really noticing things. And I know they also brought in, more media people just for like YouTubers and stuff. I saw all that. Is there anything else I want to talk about? The Supreme Court extending SNAP payment pause over Jackson's objection. Just kind of want to, I think I already covered that. We already talked about that. Let me just go down here and make sure I gave you a pretty good summary on it. See, the SNAP, they're saying the script is the SNAP payments are temporarily blocked by the Supreme Court while the legal and political processes play out. Beneficiaries are in a holding pattern, and while the courts have intervened, the bigger fix likely lies with Congress ending the shutdown and restoring appropriations. So it looks like there's still a battle going on with this, as we saw at the beginning. And there, when you look at the information about this, if you try to find it, look it up online, they're still talking about the 42 million Americans having disruptions and delays. And there's lots of confusion and variations across the states. Like I said, some states have issued full payments, others have issued partial payments, and then there's just a handful that have not issued them at all. And so there's a lot of that going on, just complete confusion, really. So there's all that going on. And I think, the last thing, I don't think I have this pulled up. I meant to have this pulled up. This is the one where President Trump had the president of Syria in the White House. I think that was Monday. Let me see if I can find that. President Syria. That Laura Loomer was really calling that out. I should just go right to her name, and we can take a look at X if it pulls up for me. That they removed sanctions too off of him on, I think, Friday. They were saying, and this was the country that had a bounty on Trump's head. I remember this. It's like, okay, let's just pretend they're not dangerous anymore. We'll just let them in. I think I know I'm frozen right now, but you can still hear me talk. If I'm remembering correctly, Laura Loomer had the picture on her account on X. And so let's see if I can come back over. So, that's just distressful, to say the least. So a lot of times my computer does just fine. And then when I go and I try to do a video, it just starts doing this. And it's almost like I feel like this is a personal attack, against my account. And it's just so weird. So I'm hoping to resolve this. And I'm so thankful that you guys are still there, hanging in with me, as I'm the frozen chosen. But like I said, this is so strange. I usually have this happen only when I'm live and doing videos, because it never spins out like this. And so I'm just kind of stuck here. It's just so weird. So I know what you're seeing right now is a picture of me just talking, and you're not seeing the president of Syria like I promised you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and show you that. Just make sure you're following me. Oh yeah, that's right. Tammy is reminding me something extremely important that I wanted to mention. Thank you so much. That the Democrats, President Trump said he was going to give $2,000 to every American. Okay. And if the Supreme Court rules in favor of his tariffs, I mean, right now, all of Trump's tariffs are on the table, like everything. That's his biggest boast. That is how President Trump is making America strong again, bringing our nation back, being able to, charge tariffs on other nations. It's just ridiculous. It's like the most ridiculous case that Supreme Court would even be taking a look at, because this is just normal business. And here they are trying to take his way to almost like save our nation. I mean, let's get freaking real here. And so thank you, Tammy Starr, for writing this, who's watching on Facebook. And she's saying that she thinks, this is her opinion, she believes that they are going to stop the $2,000 for us Americans, along with the Democrats. But the only way that can happen is if they rule against President Trump's tariffs. And honey, if they rule against President Trump's tariffs, we got way more to worry about than just $2,000 per person. And by the way, I remember when they had Elon Musk up in the game, and he was telling everybody through all the Doge digging up that we were going to get thousands of dollars. I mean, it was way more than 2,000. I'm trying to recall, was it 5, 4? I mean, it was a lot. So, and we didn't see that. And now everybody's forgotten about it. Nobody's even talking about it. So, goodness, it's just crazy. But because my computer is doing this freeze game, I'm making a lot of changes. This is going to end. I'd say in just a few days, I'm going to be changing this part of my live streams where I'm freezing up. So thank you for staying in there with me and watching. But I think I actually don't feel that great about President Trump having the people. I know he's stopped 8 wars, and he's trying to keep peace in the Middle East. But to me, it is a little odd that he has them so close, and people were noticing that on his trip to Saudi Arabia when he was had them on the Air Force One. And they also, strangely enough, they were like protecting President when he was going through some of that trip along in the Middle East. They were there with their fighter jets, like protecting Trump. Isn't that amazing? That's really amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I mean, President Trump has really, is something to like behold, like, wow, he really is a man of peace. And I see him as a man of law and order. I see him as really, he's trying to save our country. But every time he does anything, look what's happening. We even have the Supreme Court trying to stop him. This is ridiculous. And somebody is writing a Doge from somebody is watching from YouTube. It was $5,000. Yeah, we heard wind of $5,000. Now I don't know why that just disappeared and nobody remembered it anymore. And so but President Trump wasn't the one that said it. I don't think it was more like Elon Musk. But I've noticed that Trump is pretty much a man of his word. He did say no tax on Social Security, and they didn't really go through with that because there's still tax on Social Security. I haven't looked into it. If any of y'all are in the restaurant industry, are your tips still being taxed? I wonder, because he gets up there and he says no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and he always says all the stuff. And I was just wondering. But in the past, he's been a man of his word. And so I just wondered on this $2,000 gig if and how long. I can't remember how long we have to wait for the Supreme Court to rule on tariffs, because there's so much up. They're like, they just looked at they they decided not to take up the gender situation, and they decided not to look at that. So just trying to keep all this straight. So is there anything else that you guys want me to talk about, or you want to write a comment about before I end? I'm not frozen anymore, so praise God. But or okay. Oh, are people being, are you being paid, are you being taxed on overtime still? My husband just brought up that. He was curious to know if that also stopped, because President Trump always says there's no tax anymore on overtime work. Now, I don't even have time to get into what's happening with our economy. I don't even have it pulled up. I just know that so many businesses are suffering because of the economy, and that we're seeing so places go out of business, and businesses, like I heard that, what was the auto place, the rental, there's the CarMax, is it CarMax? They're going out. I heard they were going out of business, and we just be here all night talking about places that are going, out of business. And I can see it when I go out to restaurants; they're empty much of the time. They're empty, and I know people, and we did too, where you just get things to go. You go home, and that's not making it. Now, some of the retail stores are still doing well, but as the malls and things like that, they're just empty unless you're a destination mall, the South Coast Plaza. But I can see I'm frozen again. I don't know why. But hopefully this is going to change. I'm going to make some big changes in the next few days with this part. And so we're going to, have to write the president and tell him to get it. He can't even get his own friends to tell him to, like, he's president. Get ChatGPT to acknowledge this. Come on. I mean, maybe he doesn't even know it. I bet you President Trump has no idea that's going on. So anyway, it's just funny. I need to tell him. But sometimes I get really fired up, and I get a little upset with President Trump. I can't really say that I did that in the first term, but this time around I'm noticing things, and I'm in this now. Ended it. It's still here. Okay, we're gonna be here all night. We're gonna start telling bedtime stories, and maybe just know that God loves you, and that the peace of God, may the peace of God be with everyone here tonight, and that we won't be troubled by what we see happening in the world. The world is in a fallen state, and I'm gonna have to get my Bible out, start reading the Word of God, because it looks like I can't even end my live stream. I'm so sorry. We're gonna be here forever. I'll see you next time.